one of the oldest city in the world. Aleppo is one of the oldest living city in the world. So I'm talking about, at least just for you, 5,000 years old city. The oldest temple, Jewish temple in the world, is still sitting in the basement of the Syrian museum in Aleppo. Still there. Why I'm talking about Aleppo? To understand the diversity of Syria. Sunnis, Christian, Jewish, Yazidi, Armenians, Chechen, Cherkess, Turkmen, Kurds, you name them. They came from all over the world because of the Silk Road, obviously. But even though when we lost our economy because of the Suez Canal, we did not kill each other. That is, for me, is really something. But we ask ourselves, where is the money? Where is the ships? Where are they? In New York? Let's go to New York. It's in India? Let's move to India. They did not fight. They did not accuse each other. They're still living in harmony. Sadly, today what we see is a summary of proxy wars. That still our Syrians, they are not part of it. And that's what is really amazing. Most of the fighters, most of the terrorists, most of the jihadis coming from outside of Syria. So we still have hope. But let's go back to Syria. How many of you know where is Syria on the map? Really, that is a serious question. I am very proud of you. Because if I'm asking my students at Fordham or at Rutgers or even at NYU, they have no clue. If I put the Irani flag and the Syrian flag, they cannot even distinguish between them. So, but your generation, probably your mom, your dad, your grandfathers invested in you. So you are lucky. What does that mean for me? I'm going to shrink a little bit my presentation. So yes, Syria is a very old city. We invented alphabets, right? We invented the music notations, Ogarit, the city of Ogarit. Abraham went to Aleppo. We called Aleppo after his cow. Can you believe it? We called Halab after Abraham's cow. That is really something. Jewish songs, when the Christians came, took the melodies from them. When the Muslims came, took the melodies from the Christians. And if you don't believe, you need to go through my memories. Because when I wake up in the morning in Aleppo to go from my house, which I'm going to see the picture, my house that I grew up, just walking from street to street, you're going to hear such a beautiful music. In the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, and then you have all this beautiful aroma, foods that are cooking. You hear the church, you hear the songs, the chanting, synagogue 3 o'clock in the morning. Beautiful buildings. Just fascinating really for me as a child because my family moved to Syria in the 18th century. So for we are strangers, we always obsessed to understand the culture. And to understand just the Aleppian waslas, music, maqam, scales, foods, is so complex. One thing that I learned in Aleppo, there is no one feels that he is or she is minority. Until I left Aleppo, went to Damascus to study. And then I discovered something else when I went to Cairo to study in Al-Azhar School, university. So, oh boy, I thought the world over there is better than us. Turn out, I spent the rest of my life almost now, here and there, just to study the Aleppian wasla, the music, the maqam of that place, how they celebrate lives through these collective memories every day. So Aleppo, if you slice it down, it's similar to any part of Syria almost. Almost, I would say 80% is Muslim Sunnis. The rest we see Judaism, Christians. We have Yazidi. And we have people who doesn't believe in God. We have everything, by the way, in Aleppo. We have no taboo. We know who's gay, who's lesbian, all of that. I will tell you stories. Understood? But we respected each other for hundreds of years, thousands of years. One thing we don't tolerate, if you tell me your God is better than my God. I will tell you, please bring me your God, I'm going to put it in my house. I love it, I have no problem. That's the only, if I'm upset. So what does it mean? We are so curious to learn about each other. Assad came in. I'm going to jump from the Ottoman Empire, all that history is, if you know it, that's good. But really my key point here, immediately after the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, Sultan Abdul Hamid, the time is 1907. I need to go to that point. This is essential, then I need to build on it. Syrians fought the Ottoman, with the British, French, to reclaim their freedom, their independence. And then we are under the mandates of the French. French built institutions, gave us constitutions, gave us national anthem, gave us flag that none of the Syrians really believe in, including me. I never really look at the flag, what is this? Right? Because I look at something and, you know, at the same time everyone's just carrying this flag because it's been given to us. So we never really develop a national identity to begin with. Suddenly in 1950s, early 50s, we have two major political parties, the Muslim Brotherhood and the Communist Party. And there's nothing in between whatsoever. We have the nationalists, but they are not on the surface yet. Suddenly we are under Jamal Abdel Nasser, who came in and knocked down whatever the French built for us to function as a new nation. So we lost all that. Then something really I came across here in the US, I hope, I don't know, discover it or not, but you can challenge me and tell me if I'm right or wrong. But I figured out we have something, I called it Self-Inflicting Orientalism. It is really fascinating. The other generations, kids, they've been sent by Jamal Abdel Nasser and later by the Hafiz al-Assad and Saddam Hussein, all of them, to the US to study your theories, and use it over there to put the West and the East under their agendas in such sophisticated, intelligent way. And today we are dealing with the consequences of this term that I'm trying to share with you. So yes, Edward Said told us a lot about Orientalism. We have Occidentalism, we have all of that, but we never really talk that much about self-inflicting or self-inflicted Orientalism, which is so dangerous if you go in depth and monitor it through the Arab Spring, because today I see it. I see it through the fight between the big families, who try to be invisible, and their arms, which is the generals, the secret intelligence, you name it. The irony of the story is Israel is always the one to blame. That is always really Israel. But one thing that we discovered, all of us, Israel was invisible the last 3 years. Say, look, it is your problem. We have nothing to do with this. You are fighting, you are doing this to you. If you need help, we will help your refugees. So really it's fascinating to see all this progress in a country where so diverse, so rich, so old, especially I'm talking about collective memories. Take any country on this global level. The US, for me as an Libyan, it is not more than 300 years old. Yes, you look at us, especially the Jewish from Halab, how they manage their job, their work, their scholarships, you name it. They're really very rich in terms of their, how they accept each other's coexisting and so on, compared to the others if you compare them. So I'm not saying Libyan and Syrians, they are really special. People are saying, no, the space, if you look at it from Google Earth, there is nothing. We have just a river. That is for me so fascinating, how we share everything, how we made money, how we're still making money. And we have stations, including the Amazon. We have businesses all over the place. We help each other. And we play music for each other. I go to Jewish weddings. I still play music. I love it. For free, just for fun. Just to see the children, see everyone. And it's really fascinating to see that. Right? They time their weddings here in this country, especially the Libyans, around authentic music, usually from now until March. Right? The Christians, the Muslims, from Patterson, Clifton to Brooklyn, to Rhode Island. You see all of that happening, all this activity. Suddenly we have what? You call this Arab Spring, you call it Arab Uprising, you call it Arab Revolutions, you can name it whatever. So far, I have no term for it. Because it's not a civil war. Why? Because the majority, they are Muslim Sunnis. They are not killing anyone. They are the victims, and actually they are the refugees inside and outside the country, and refuse, as of now, to carry guns and fight their fellow Syrians. And if you don't believe, I will tell you the story. In July 2011, group of jihadis from the inner cities and the suburbs of Aleppo came to Halab, the ancient city, to kill a family who is pro-Assad. Such a brutal, ugly way, and they videotape it, put it on YouTube. Facebook back then, if I tell you, we have 50, 60 people, not that much. I love to look at the statistics a little bit to look at it. I'm talking about Syria, 2010, 2011. Older generation never used Facebook. Younger generations are busy with something else. So the one who started the momentums, not from inside Syria, it was from the Syrians who were outside of Syria. And that's something I'm going to build on it later. Then the one who's inside Syria, what we've done to them is we translated the Yugoslavian problems. We translate all these documents, and my student at the center, my friends in France, in Germany, Vienna. We're doing all these translations from English into Arabic, and we are dumping all these files. And for me, it's fascinating to see this organic tree just growing. Everyone is just contributing. So you want to be funny? You can. But you have one shot to to put it. Because the minute you put it, you're going to see it, you're just funny. You don't know what you're talking about. Understood? So really the space was so rich in the beginning. Then suddenly the Assad, so genius, so intelligent, use your equipment that you ship to Iraq to log, monitor us, interrupt us, and hire his Syrian army, electronic army, we call them, who is all of them really intelligent, trained in the Soviet Union, in France, here in this country, how we use this internet, these infrastructures, for their own advantages, creating all these fake groups, hundreds of them, to disrupt the social movement in Syria that we started. Then suddenly we see a group of people, 4 or 5, they have a camera, they have a couple of guns, RPG, they have endless list of names. So before the revolution, we have 52 political parties in Syria. Now we have probably like 300 something. Understood? The whole idea who created them, they are a bunch of countries. Iran, Saudi Arabia, I would say Qatar on the record. And then the Assad alliance in Yemen, the Shiite exactly, not the Alawites, the Shiites, because we have Alawite in Morocco, they have nothing to do with that. They brought each group, they brought their fighters. The Sunnah brought their fighters because the Saudis dollars. And then you have the Assad also, the dollar that he stole from us with his dad the last 40 years, he's using it today to butcher us. And who is taking all this money? The same story, Franco, 1930s, the Russians. So we paying from our blood to have a bomb, we call it barrel, to bomb us again and again, because of a system that we did not choose. Now the question is, why I'm summarizing these pictures? I will say, just to tell you, this is really not what I see it. I don't know, correct me later. Not a civil war. This is a proxy war. The arena is Syria. The people who's dying, Syrians, especially children, because they're using children, women, as a weapon. Rape, killing them, torture them, disappearing, you name it. They left nothing they did not use. So they are the victims of that situation, not the Alawites. And actually, I will still see these discussions. If even my best friends, we lost them some time for that reason. Like, what are we going to do with the Alawite? It's just a scary question, right? Even though we'd not win yet, right? So they have this concern. Like, what are we going to do with the Alawite? For a reason, because of these images I come to share with you. I promise there's no blood. I'm not going to show all of that. I'm focusing on much productive pictures and messages here to try to see and discover what we can do and contribute. So moving from a beautiful, diverse country to a country that collapsed immediately after the Ottoman Empire, then French built that institution, to the Nasserite really again knock it down. Assad came in, our intellectual either in exile, right, or a prison or execution. 1982. For me, this is a period of time that always focus in the classroom or when I do my analysis. I would say 1982, when Sharon went to Lebanon, it was a golden opportunity for the Assad to create something called Hezbollah. The benefit was endless because Ayatollah back then acknowledged the Alawite, because we never called them Alawite. We called them what? We called them Nusayriyin. So Ayatollah with the Assad acknowledged the Alawite. They wrote him a letter telling him, you are part of the 12. What do you need? Money, but I need a space. A lot of Iranis enter Lebanon after they destroy the civilian records. In Lebanon, they burn it down. And they took advantage of the invasion of Sharon. We are fighting Israel, all of that. They created a Hezbollah that later we will see most of our problems today we're dealing with today is because of that gap that everyone left behind, including the US. The benefit for the Hezbollah is the following. By moving Irani's citizen to Lebanon and let them study Arabic, perfect Arabic, Lebanese accent, marry Arab women, right? This has never happened in our history, at least modern history. In thousands, and give them money to build hospitals, to build infrastructures, and so on. What we observed so far is even in Syria he was doing that. And we discovered that because of the activities that we are witnessing today in Syria. We discovered that. They say, oh my God, we have a Shiite here and there. Who built this mosque? It is new, just been built in 1998. Who built this monument? 1998. Until 2002. They were assimilating Syria, special geographic location and cities, moving people and converting people from Sunnah to Shia. Not to Alawi. That is really the irony of the story. Why the Shia? So what we see is Syria today is really, I consider this as truly under the occupation of Iran. You believe it or not, you don't need to think about it twice, because we are dying with what? With Hezbollah and the militias that's coming from Iran. Muqtada al-Sadr, the most horrible group that fought the Marines at one point, a couple of years ago. They sent them, the hardlines of the Shiites, sent them to us to kill us in Aleppo, in Syria, in Homs. They have nothing to do with our land. They're fighting to protect their monuments. I told you in the beginning, we have those monuments for 1,000 years. We never destroy none of them, including the oldest temple in the world. So why are you coming here to my country and try to kill and rape under the name of Arab names, Fatima and Hussein and all of that? So what we discover is truly we are under the occupations of Iran, but also who's behind it is Russia, so we are part of this proxy war. Now for the Americans audience who's watching TVs a couple of months ago, they say, oh, we're going to war, another war, we hate it, we have nothing to do with you, Middle East. Deal with your own issues. I would say you can do that, you can hide it for a couple of months, couple of years. But if you see what I see and observe through my traveling around this beautiful planet, what it really is, we're going to see at one point an intelligent group of Al-Qaeda who's going to hijack your drone. And quote me, remember what I said. Reason, because Syria also has a scientist. Went to Harvard, went to Oxford, went to all these beautiful universities. And let me tell you something. Take how many professors we produce as a country. Not because of the Assad system, because our mom and dad, our ancestors asked us to study. This is our culture, this is our fabric, that's how we think. I will see is at one point those kids who's very smart, with nice flash drive dumped by the Russians intelligence to their pocket, I will take down your drone. Not that much. We already have done that in Iraq with $50. Understood? So, and then we have factories that they're not producing any goods anymore. What are they going to use? If you watch the videos, the last 2 years, it was very simple to produce this funny guns. Bringing sugar, bringing this, one-third of that, put it like this, they burn their hands. Today, they are mass productions. I'm not joking. Big number of those missiles. So perfect. Now they're perfecting the painting, the patterns. Say, oh my God, I'm losing my memories as Syrians because now I've been paid to build the guns to kill someone else that I don't know, that I don't care about. So now finally we have a new culture in our space that's really affecting our collective memories and culture in Syria. That is really my concern, because if you cross that bridge, it's very hard to go back. I'll tell you how. You took credit, you say Facebook is behind the Arab revolutions, or sometimes WikiLeaks, or you have a lot of lists of that. I say no. What's happened is really the dignity. That's what's happened to us. The word, Arabic word, is so important. When you say a word in Arabic for a group, it is so powerful. It's very hard for me to explain it now in a few minutes, but think about it this way. If I recite a poem, imagine all of you knitting. 3D, all of you at the same time, the same pulse, the meaning of that. Understood? At the same time, all of us. And believe it or not, all of you stand up when you see it, all of you at the same time. We call it tarab. And there's a book about it. You can read it by Professor Jihad al-Rasi from UCLA. Right? Read about that. So what I tell you, Arabic word is so powerful. Now add God to it and Quran, it is really the ultimate weapon. And those our jihadis are really the master of that. Our intellectuals, on the other hand, they withdraw from the space because the second invasion of Iraq. So the first invasion, second invasion has a great impact on Arab intellectuals mainstream. They say, we don't know what to do. So who took over immediately? Mr. Bin Laden and his group. And our intellectuals, they did not produce that much, and we see that when we measure how much we produce short stories, novels, and all of that. So we have a gap already started in 1990s. And then in 2000, the gap's so big. And now the bag, I cannot even measure it anymore. Do you see what I have to tell you? And all this group, all this youth, Arab youth is big. Look at the numbers, huge, our populations. They have no job, they have no opportunities. So what to do? Pay me to do something. Understood? So what I tell you, by neglecting that space, by not implementing any clear policies as of today, which is so disturbing for me as an American. I'm American, I pay my tax. Mr. President, please do something about it. He's not there, right? He's not there for us. He drew a red line, turned out to be a joke for everyone. I'm not afraid to say that. Because truly, everyone in Syria thought he was very serious. Chain out the biological chemical weapons is very important, and I would say good luck even with that promise from the Assad. Because Assad will never give up everything. If you don't believe, the last 48 hours, Assad gave Scud missiles to what? To Hezbollah. Understood? I don't know if he gave him the recipe also. So my point is, we're still running away from our responsibilities on that level, leading these people to go to direction that is going to affect us, and I promise you, severely. Why? Because I witnessed that in 1982. I go back to that point. When my family, everyone, waited for Mr. Reagan to come and help us. And was Saddam Hussein supposed to be the angel for that? Right? I'm talking about the civil war in Syria in 1982. We're not afraid from Sharon, we're afraid from the Assad. That's our enemy, not Sharon. We know Israel, even back then, is a country. But Assad is not a president. Assad is just a brutal dictator who is no different than Ceausescu. Right? That is really the message I try to tell you. So my generation is really, if I tell you what happened to my friends, is really scary. Some of them blow up themselves in south of Lebanon. Some of them, God knows what happened to them. I'm not going to mention that what to tell you. But it produced that promise something in 1982. Now, multiply that today 200 times. So you're going to have an angry refugees, right? They have Iraqi refugees in Jordan, the Syrian refugees in Jordan, and all these refugees. Give me 5 jihadis, give me name and camera, give me some guns, I will turn them to something. The difference today with the formula is what? Again, factories in Aleppo. If I am from Aleppo, give me the best car that you have. Doesn't take me 3-4 days to take it apart and build better than it. Quote me what is, and ask any scientist, anyone who went to Aleppo, German scholars, to observe and to write. They are such sophisticated people. Because they don't stay just in Aleppo, they travel around the globe. They know the market very well. They can put it together in really good manners. So it is not to scale, but it is the time for us to understand really our responsibilities. On all levels, I don't know. Everyone maybe have agendas, I don't know, but I would say we cannot just say because it is not in the news, everything is normal in Syria. You know what? Let them figure it out. I'll tell you, true, that is a fair statement. If they know, if nobody's sending them guns, nobody's sending them fighters to fight. That's a good decision if you want to do that. But the problem is, no, we are dealing with different countries who are sending their evils to us to activate things that is impossible for you to imagine. Right? So it's not about just intelligence. We know everyone's dumbing their intelligence over there. No, what I tell you is the speed, the momentums. On the other side of the story, I'm going to talk about the Syrians, the free Syrians, who is, I would say, my age, who's working day and night in a peaceful way to deliver food, teaching free kids, bring them to their house to teach them, giving them cameras to take images, journalists, and all of that, and also really working on their own to map out the demographic of Syria, because they know it, all this record is just fake. And at the same time, they have degrees, those kids. They are not like illiterates. They know what they're doing. I will say there is hope. There is a movement that we don't see it on TV. So the Syrian positions in Geneva, they are just a bunch of failure. You're going to see that later. Annan proposal was a disaster from the beginning. You're going to see all of that, right, by now, right? I would say, so all of these things that we proposed so far, we failed. What is next? That is the question I'm going to ask you. Because every day, we have at least between 100 and 165 Syrian who lost their life. Majority of them, look at the numbers, they are children. And this is, for me, is so really something. Because I never read that in my literature. I never saw that. Maybe Crusades 1 and 2. We have small events and we don't even talk about it that much in our literature. But today what we see is unbelievable in our history. To see the amount of children who's losing their life intentionally, that is really something. So yes, history is important. Politics is also important. But human life is the most precious things we need to save. That is really my message. And I will say we have organizations today out of hundreds that we came up immediately after the Arab Spring here in this country, just the USA, nobody else. It's fascinating. I was working for the state of New Jersey Eagleton Institute, mapping out the nonprofit organizations. So I'm working on the Arab nonprofit organizations, right? We have few. Today, we have a number that's so fascinating. Each tribe, each family, they have their own nonprofit organization. Why? Because they trust nobody. They say, you are pro-Assad, you are the cousin of this, because of that. But what to tell you is, even when we try to be, like you, we don't know how to do it because we never have this culture. We never have these institutions in our countries. And so when we came here, we try to be invisible, just focus on our life, our marriages, everything. Our kids, we have best degrees here in this country. Look at them, really, they were beautiful. But really, they're far away from all of that. And today, you see everyone is complaining to me, I'm a doctor, I'm a surgeon, I need to create a nonprofit, I need to send money, my cousin, who is what. So I would say that is good, even we're complaining, but I would say, sadly, we cannot depend on them. Because I don't know what's going on with the money. Right? So I would say, but also through the American governments, we have nonprofit organization, trustworthy, where we can really build on that. Understood? So I try to tell you, if you try to help, if you can, with $1, whatever, do your homework. Just spend, like I would say, 1 hour, 2 hours. Try to explore really what's going on. And send $1 in the end of that, but don't celebrate $1. Don't celebrate that. Because the disaster over there is bigger than you can imagine. Just again, do your part. And so speak with your representatives and tell them what's going on with Syria. Well, we are not implementing any clear foreign policies. We really fail miserably. If I measure Americans' foreign policies from 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s, this is the worst period of our history. If you don't believe, go ask anyone in the Middle East. So how are we going to achieve anything if we are the superpower? And we're still superpower, there's no argument, but we are not doing what we're supposed to do, what to do, to implement, not just to come up with a list of fires and TVs and recording. No, no, be serious. Honesty is important, but politics and it's dirty at one point, especially in the Middle East. So ugly. Next, what is something that all of us we should be aware of? We need to focus on generations like Afram. It is the time. And I will tell you what does that mean is. What I learned is when older generation came here, struggled a lot to work themselves, build institutions, build themselves. The younger generation is the time for them today to truly start to take the lead. How? Civic dialogues, through soft powers, through education, through programs. And why I'm mentioning that? Because during all these activities, suddenly I see a letter came to me from the president of Fordham University. Upset, the president is very upset because American Studies Associations, they become academics, inviting Israeli scholars to come too. Even for me, I am a member of the American Studies. This is my area of studies. You came here to study you. Say, why you are better than me? And now I see you doing the same thing that we're doing in the Middle East. I said, make no sense. I was talking to Rabbi Afram and saying, like, this is totally wrong. It is the time, that is the only time where that is left for us to build bridges, to reach out to each other, not to cut it. I don't understand why we do that. Do you see what I tell you? It is truly the time for you, all of you, to try to come with a strategy and help your fellow Arabs. So we request, but I tell you, it's the time to move forward that directions, because we tell you the consequences, guys, it is unbelievable if we don't do that. So coexistence, as you mentioned, Rabbi, the coexistence is very important today for us to acknowledge. I will tell you, Arab youth, they do acknowledge that. I promise you, the Arabs today, they are different than the Arabs that you saw on the TVs, that they created our images. We, not the American movies. I'm talking about Assad, I'm talking Jamal Abdel Nasser, I'm talking about Saddam and Al-Qaddafi. They created those scary images of us. This way, we need to be invisible in our country and in diaspora. It's fascinating. And you can put it under what? Self-inflicted Orientalism. Because really, they master that. The irony of the story is a few writers try to talk about it, touch it a little bit. Even with that, they were so scared to do that. Understood? So again, it is the time to understand the picture, do your assessment, and try to reach out. Just a little bit again. I'm not asking you to take anything from your family and your energies. Just do a little bit. Understood? Yes. I will end it here. If you have any questions, I would like really to answer it.
The question is, where can we reach out here to help some of those Arab organizations that you spoke about?
I would say we go back to the East Coast, Northeast Coast, tri-states, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey. A reason, because Arab, at least Syrian specifically, who came from the greater Syria back then, they've been here since 1888. They've been here for a long time. So they built institutions. One of them is the Alepian Charities. It is since 1925, still exists. So we have some organizations here, the oldest one. We can talk to, we have the Christians Orthodox, the Syrian Christian Orthodox, you have the Chaldean, you have the Jewish of Aleppo in Brooklyn, you have, and the Muslims mosques in Patterson and Clifton. We can really organize events, and my center, I invite everyone, and I always, doing something, all of that by now. So, and I extended my invitation to Rabbi Afram a few days ago. I was talking to you, in terms of like, it is the time, and I believe in that. So let's start with organizations, but also I'm going to have a weird request, because the idea about Arab minds, how we think, in terms of like tribalism, all of that. Let's do it mathematically with a small number, and to the effective numbers, just to bring each other to one room, have a discussions, let's come up with like very simple plan to help each other, at least focus on the Syrian children. Under that, we can talk about the political agendas if still there is space and energy for that. The idea is all about is what? We need to bring clerics, rabbis, priests, from all of the space, including scholars, from Syria, here to the US, Not Germany, not France. France, we don't like France because occupation. Ottoman Empire still in my back, my head. German, they are tough. We cannot negotiate with them. Americans, they are far away from us. We love you. Understood? Really, you are so beautiful. You do listen. Understood? You don't argue. Then you are intelligent how to deliver your message. So I would say somehow Arab, we do really love this country, especially Syrians. And I told you we've been here since 1888. So we have deep roots in this country. And what is the next stage, what I predict, is bringing all these scholars and religion leaders and the key figures of the Syrian families. I'm talking about the rich Syrians, who is the poorest one, is worth $2 billion. Understood? They are around the globe, my friends, and really they are powerful. I went to a couple of them in London. He was crying, and one of them, just to mention, and they're like, "Oh my God, what's going on with my country, Syria?" Understood? In their heart, they feel it, and they're like, "We are losing such a beautiful treasure, and we're not going to have it back again if we lose it all over." So we can go around that and trigger, I would say, activities. We can build on it in civic way. And let me tell you something: music, foods, arts, all this soft power, we have it. And we have a beautiful, look at this beautiful space. I was in Covent Center a few months ago, then Berman Center. I was in Vienna Opera House, in Canada, all of that. After the music is just entertainment. Sit with me, write a check, give it to this organization. Yes, I have nice steak, but you need to help this one. I don't work for nobody, by the way. I'm not even belong to any political parties in Syria. Understood? But I carry a big name. It's my family. Understood? And my family name is worth a lot. I cannot sell it. We need to go back to that nature. If you have really respect to each other, let's bring each other to the space. And we can really do something. And let me tell you something, United Nations is going to do nothing. And quote me here. If you don't believe, look, almost 3 years. I sat with them in the space, out of the space. The bottle of wine tells me a lot. Tell me, oh my God, there's discussions, you cannot do nothing here now. Understood? It's not a secret. But I cannot tell my friend on Facebook over that. Understood? Who's still waiting. I would say, no, let's mobilize ourselves to reach out on their behalf at least. Give them alternative at least. Right? Give them like something called third space to participate in, not cyberspace.
Well, the question is, what kind of support are Syrians getting from other neighboring countries, specifically Jordan and Egypt? What kind of help are they getting from other countries in the region?
The State of Israel is sending help aid to Jordan, from Jordan to our refugees. And from the Golan Heights, we have people who enter and being treated and send it, some of them pregnant women, wounded soldiers, and so on. And this is happening, and what is intelligent about Israel is really not taking credit publicly. And that is really one day history we're going to talk about it, right? And that is really something for all the Arabs, especially the Syrians. What does it mean? It's a positive energy, understood? At the same time, our Lebanese fellows are killing the Syrians. So the Jordanians are already in trouble. They have the Iraqi refugees, the Sudani refugees, the Somali refugees, and all this list of refugees. The Lebanese refugees who left in 1974, they are still over there in Jordan. So to tell you, the king himself and the amount of corruptions that we have in Jordan, that he's publicly said it here last year in the newspaper in this country, that he's dealing with. I will say even the king is not stable. Jordan is very fragile to begin with. So he cannot really do a lot to begin with. But he is at least giving them the services. He's not stealing from these aids that he is receiving from the West. That's what I like about the king of Jordan. Where Egypt, forget about it. I will show you yesterday what they've done to our Syrian children in their schools. This is just awful. I don't want to even show you the images. So forget about Egypt. Saudi Arabia is dumping a lot of money. When I say dumping, I mean it literally, because they don't care where this money is going to be. So for me, I tell my friend, this is a curse. If you're going to take it, you are going to carry this blood on your hand for the rest of your life. Now, I will tell you, so the Arabs, they feel we have a dignity, we need to help, but we don't have institutions in between. Do you see what's going on here? We don't know what to do. Okay, cousin, I know you from my tribe, this is $50 million. Guys, $50 million is not that big if you carry it. Understood? And they're shipping all this money all over the place, far away from Western Union, you know all of that by now, and we don't know where this money going to. Right? So the situation is Jordan doing a lot, but not enough because the amount of refugees every day keep increasing. There's no way you can compete with that numbers. We don't have even infrastructures. And any disaster, snow, floods, we blame immediately the king of Jordan. I'm talking about Arab honors, hospitalities, not politics. And if like, you failed me, cousin. Now let me tell you something quickly here. This triangle, Syria, you see Syria, Israel, Jordan, Saudi Arabia. This area, that is, I consider the center of all Arab revolutions. Historically, if this area collapses, and I predict this is going to be, and Assad is going to be behind that, it's going to trigger events to extend his life. And Jordan is the weakest one is going to be for him. Understood? I'm bidding on that. So my point is, if we can keep helping the king, directly or indirectly, I don't know, to keep up with this big, huge numbers. Because for the Assad, he's very happy. More refugees, shoot little bullets, let them go to Jordan. You want to go all of you to Jordan. Because he's not like Qaddafi, he learned his mistake. Right? I'm going to protect everyone, and I am in charge. You know, the Assad say, you know what? Go kill each other, I'm going to protect myself. I'm going to participate in killing each other. So the Assad is really, he's working on this key element. They like send more refugees inside Syria and outside Syria for many reasons, by destroying schools, thousands of schools being destroyed, mosques, triple that number of schools, because mosque is our space for the Syrian uprising, not Facebook. People have no electricity, my friends. You can still see that from the syntax, from the language, from all of that, who's writing what, and then from the server you can write all those, see all these reports, where it's coming from, where it's going to. So Facebook, don't give credit too much, please. I would say it has a certain effect, but mosques, still the most powerful place. And Assad knows that very well. So every day there is a target on his list.
The question is, how many people would we estimate are living in America with close ties to Syria, with family there, with property there, close ties?
The Syrian populations here in the US, especially in the northeast coast, it's totally different if you compare it before 2008, before Obama's election. A lot of Syrians move for many reasons, from poverty, because of economy, all of that. So now and also diversities, there's no discriminations. So we see a lot. I've been monitoring New Jersey specifically, and so I see a huge Syrian community growing, middle class, rich, right? They own properties here, and they have cousins over there. So most of the, I would say, the one who's controlling food distributions, real estate, doctors, you name it, all of that, restaurants, they have ties not just with Syria, Venezuela, Brazil, Argentina. The guy who has a restaurant here has another restaurant in Venezuela, and has the same music band who performs in Sultan. Next month he's in Venezuela, and then in Canada, understood? So what to tell you, we do have concentrations in the state of New Jersey, but in like numbers, actual numbers is very hard to say. I know there is one non-profit organization who have these numbers online. You can Google it, you can see it. But I will tell you, it is big. Syrians, they never leave their families. Even Lebanese. I'll give you an example. I have a Fordham student, third generation, who went took Arabic classes just in order for her to go and see her cousins in Lebanon, or some of them in Syria and Halab, some of them in Latakia, just to go back and speak with them in Arabic. And even though they're cousins, they don't know they do exist. Do you see what you're telling? It is like two-way highways, especially because of today's events since 2008, right? So I would tell you, but I will see we have disruptions in 1956 up to mid-80s. We have disruptions between the relationship between family ties and all of that, because many reasons. I'll not go through it now. We know that from art, performance, and. But suddenly, because economy, all of that, internet, we see more ties. The families, they have forum. We know who have no son, who is searching for a job. So each family, they have their own forum now. You see, this is how they keep up with their memories. Now add to that Facebook. Like, just families. Like, this is my picture, this is my son. Let me study Arabic. I would like to communicate with my cousin. And mom now is next to me, who never speaks any Arabic. I'm doing the translation. So we do have activities, and it is happening. I don't have the number on top of my head, but I know it is big.
Paul's question is, how is the stability or instability in Iraq affecting the situation in Syria?
It is beautiful questions, but if I will continue with my line, which is nothing is going to affect anything in Syria as long as Iran is in charge. So what does that mean is not the United Nations, not Russians, nobody else, because who's paying the bills today for the Assad is Iran. Russians, they take the money, they take gold. We bankrupt the Syrian bank, national bank. Done. We have nothing. They took everything. I compare it to Franco. I mean it literally. They took everything from Syria. And now we're signing more contracts with them for oil and gas in the Mediterranean Sea and all of that. So, but what it truly is, whatever happening in Iran is under, I would say, Iraq is really under the command of the mullahs in Iran. I'm not talking about politicians, I'm talking the mullahs, because each sheikh, each mullah over there, they have their own budget, their own fighters, their own propagandas, and so on. So, does not affect anything. Al-Anbar al-Fallujah, yes, Sunnah, but we're not going to see fighters from Syria going to fight with Iraqi fighters against the Shia over there. Yet. Because we are busy. Right? I doubt it's going to affect anything. So what is my concern is, my point is, whatever you see today happening in Iraq, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, I will say this is because of the Irani Americans, I will say, new politics they try to implement in the Middle East. So the Saudis dumping, we call them Daesh, which is the ISIS or ISIL. They are dumping all these fighters and done. We don't need to deal with them. That is the price the Saudis is willing to sacrifice in order to catch up with the Americans, because now the Saudis are behind. So I don't know, I'm wrong, but what I tell you is, whatever you see in Iraq is not going to, I doubt it's going to continue. Because the nature of tribalism, the nature of really the space, all of that, it's totally different than Syria. I can't even compare them. One thing I will tell you is that one major player in Iraq is Iran, not even the US. Instead, Iran is in charge of that space.
The question is, how has the current situation in Syria affected the status of women and the education of girls in Syria?
Well, I will tell you, truly is a very important question, guys. Truly. Because we learn language and culture from our mother. Our dad is outside. Look at your memories, all of you. Who taught you how to speak, how to read? Your dad? I don't know. But I tell you, majority, mom always in the house teaching us. That's the reason why Arabs, men, male, marries non-Arab. So weird. And usually the second wife, if we do that, is going to be my cousin. It's mandatory. Understood? But not Syrian. Syrians, we don't do that. I rarely saw my friends marry two wives. It's just crazy. So what I tell you is, take me personally, my grandmother is a Turkish. Understood? My dad's side is from Chechen. Understood? Reason because they bring Chechen. Chechen is former Soviet Union. What you tell you is, in general, each one of us, we have blue eyes. Like, I tell you, it's really funny to see Syrians' faces. There's no two Syrians they look like. It's unbelievable. Blue eyes, red hair, right? It is, you see all of that because we marry non-Arabs for some reason. For one reason, I'll tell you why. We have healthy kids. And we know from different cultures, mother always going to be, because she's from different culture, she's going to compete with everyone to be the best. Understood? And plus add delicious food. Understood? New culture, new ideas. Plus they know how to help their husband to get more jobs and more opportunities and all of that. So really they are part of this ethnic enclaves, women. So what it really is, education, business, all of that is part of our fabric. And today we cut all of that. We see girls being raped. We see women, they don't go to schools. We see people that are busy with their trauma. They're not focusing anymore about what they're going to eat. Well, they try just to have a warm space to sleep. I would say 3 years is too much. I predict it's going to be more. I said on TV, I said, good luck after Obama's speech. I said, oh my God, we're going to have another 3 years. It's going to take 1 year to take all these biological chemical weapons. Then we have another problem. Then it is 6 years. 6 years we lost schools, mosques. Women have no educations. They've been used as a weapon. Do you see? So it is going to affect us at one point. We don't see it yet because we are busy in this trauma, but wait, later you're going to see that. Now, what is the effect on that? I would say it has a great impact on at least the Muslim Sunnis, because women, they memorize the Quran. It's like the Jewish, Jewish women here in Senegal, they go to Senegal, they recite everything, told them, can you read Arabic? They don't read Arabic, but they know everything because of the maqam, the scales, and all of that. Understood? So women, they are really just like a Jewish woman. It's very essential for us. We die, we fight for them. Because they carry our memories, guys. They are the hard drive. I call them the hard drive. They carry everything. Understood? So now they've been disrupted in such an ugly, brutal way. So it is a serious question. Thank you for raising that. I would say we need to do a lot. The best thing is education. Start with education. Go back to the normal system.
The question is this inevitably going to be a bloody clash, or is there a possible way for the parties to sit down and work something out diplomatically at some point in the future?
I always think about these two scenarios. One, after a US-Iran agreement, that you are going to discover a lot about it, nuclear weapons and all of that. And the price for Iran, we don't know yet. So I'm waiting to see a little bit more. But I tell you for sure, Geneva 2 is just a failure. Forget about it. I'm not going to even bother to look at it. But I'm bidding on the groups who's forming themselves here in the US, abroad, inside Syria, far away from the cameras, far away from TVs, far away from all of this, who's very serious about their country. Sadly, those groups, what I discovered, they don't know each other that much. Understood? Because each one has their own island, because they know this is the best option, so I need to protect it. They are aware of this is a proxy war. They are aware there is a lot of intelligence involved and try to change the mechanism and the directions. So they prefer to take it slow. For me, it is okay, but the problem is we're going to extend it for another 6 years. So it is going to take time. I promise you, that's why I see it. I travel a lot. I see it from the discussions. I see it from the momentum, the patterns. I say, oh my God, we are really heading toward that direction, and I'm scared from that because it is going to be killing in Syria, and beheading a human being is going to be like a piece of cake. Understood? In Syrian culture, we don't have like killing human being and cut him pieces. Understood? It never exist. At least in my time. Now it is very normal now. The images that I process every night, I say, I don't know how to sleep. This is so scary. Not the images, the culture that we are creating. So it's going to take time.
Where does Vladimir Putin fit into all of this, and has he come out the winner, as some analysts have suggested?
He is the head of mafiosa, so either way he is winning. One, he secured the gold. He secured the gold of Syria. We signed contract in 2010, treaties and contracts and businesses with him and with the previous guy who was behind him. Who was before him. And then a few days ago, we signed another treaties for the oil of that. So what it truly is, he is the winner. But I see it is, until we Syrians put ourselves together in a positive way, we're going to knock down. So really, I don't measure his success that's been built on the Syrian innocent blood is success. For him, yes, he secured the money, he secured whatever he wants to secure. Syria is a big pie for the Soviet or the Russians today. It's a very important pie. They're not going to leave it, and Mr. Obama, I believe he believes in that. Understood? What does it mean? If this is my line, this is your line, and I'm focusing, my red line is biological chemical weapons. This is my red line. So the pie is for you, give me this. So we will ship it for you. We'll send you trucks, how about that? We'll take money from you to send Syrian trucks to take the biological chemical weapons. We'll make another money, benefit from it, put it on. He's making money from each move that he's conducting. So he is a mafia. And he is winning, we like it or not. But I promise you, it's for a short period of time. Because I doubt the Syrians, the jihadis that is fighting in Syria is going to let him celebrate this coming few months, his celebrations. I doubt. And this came not from us, the Syrians, came from the Saudi threats. They're going to see a lot of bombings during this, Olympics. They told him that, understood? So watch TV, but it's not going to change his mind. He still is going to make money out of that, understood? So, but at the time there's innocent lives because of his policy, and he's very happy with that. Believe me.
This is an AJC paperweight on which is written in English and Arabic, presented with appreciation for your valuable contribution to understanding and cooperation. AJC has given this gift to leaders across the Arabic-speaking world, a quiet but important part of AJC's global Jewish advocacy.
Thank you so much from my heart. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who wishes to support Shalom TV with a tax-deductible gift of $36, double chai or more, to the nonprofit organization Jewish Education in Media. Simply visit the Shalom TV website homepage and click on the Donate button to make a donation by PayPal or your credit card. And please indicate the program for which you would like a DVD. Or you can send your tax-deductible check made out to GEM. To GEM, Post Office Box 180, Riverdale Station, Bronx, New York, 10471. And again, please remember to indicate which program you would like to receive on DVD with our compliments. And we thank you for your kind support.